It's really important to understand that if you're trying to make millions of dollars as a dropshipper, you need to find the best dropshipping suppliers. And when we talk about the best dropshipping suppliers, I'm not just talking about pricing. There are a lot of other criteria you need to pay attention to if you want to filter out the best from the rest. Okay, so in today's conversation, I want to explain to you 10 questions that you need to ask dropshipping suppliers if you're thinking about making a decision in terms of getting sourcing the products from them. Okay, so here is the overview I really want you to pay attention to. So if you're thinking about starting your own dropshipping business, it doesn't matter whether you are on an e-commerce platform or you're dropshipping from an e-commerce marketplace. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're on Shopify or Amazon. Let me just put it this way. The most important thing is to find the right dropshipping supplier in terms of economics. When I talk about economics, pricing is only one aspect of the things. You have to think about shipping. You have to think about the order processing. You have to think about the order manufacturing. You have to think about customer service. All these things are really important, okay? Now, where to find dropshipping suppliers for your store? Do you find them in the United States? Do you find them in Asia, in China, in Africa, in Latin America, in the UK, in Europe, in Australia? Where do you actually find them? It's really important to have this questions and this answers in mind, because where you find your dropshipping supplier is going to play an important role in terms of shipping, for example. So if your dropshipping supplier is located in China and your customers are in Florida, for example, you have to think about shipping. You have to think about the time it takes. Okay, it's not just about the price. It's about, hey, listen, if I place this order, it will take me 1 month for the order to be delivered. Okay, and by the way, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. We love having this kind of conversations every now and then. And one thing I want to say here is that when we talk about, asking questions of dropshipping suppliers, you need to look at three important things. I'll talk about the topics you need to address in your questions, but you need to think about three things when you actually have a conversation with your suppliers. First of all, you want to think about how fast they respond to you. So responsiveness. Like if you send an email, let's say yesterday, do they get back to you 1 month from now or today or like within 48 hours? Number one, responsiveness. Number two, the clarity of their answers. In other words, you ask a question and you have a supplier who gives you clear answers, not trying to beat around the bush, not trying to razzle dazzle you, not trying to really, throw smokes on your face, trying to confuse the hell out of you. You want somebody who is clear, who tells you things clearly, straightforward. That's number two. The third thing that's very important is that the level of honesty. So if they're transparent, okay, they're transparent in their answers, they're giving you things step by step. That's very good. Now let me give you a few pro tips. So as I promised to you, we have 10 questions you need to ask you need to ask dropshipping suppliers when you are actually, quote unquote, interviewing them. First of all, number one, the delivery times. So you got to ask the supplier, what are the average delivery times for your target countries? See, the whole thing here is that, a lot of dropshippers, they think, I can just get a dropshipper from, let's say, Australia, or get a dropshipping supplier from the EU. But if your customers are somewhere in Latin America, is the EU location best for your target customers? Because it's all about your target countries, okay? You always want to ask that, because the thing is that some dropshipping suppliers, they might tell you, hey, listen, we will deliver between 20 and 40 days. But 20 or 40 days, is it for order processing or order manufacturing or everything? Because see, when you place an order, when your customer places an order in your dropshipping store, there are three things that you have to pay attention to. You have the time it takes for the order manufacturing, the time it takes for the order processing, the order manufacturing, and the order shipping. So processing, manufacturing, and shipping, those are important elements. So things don't happen overnight, okay? So you got to think about that. So you got to ask your dropshipping supplier, what is the average delivery time for your target countries? By the way, I want to quickly remind you of today's conversation. The topic we're talking about 10 questions to ask dropshipping suppliers, 10 important questions, okay? And you also want to ask them about what is the average processing time once you have ordered, okay? This is actually the time between ordering and the order actually been shipped, right? The processing. Normally, your order will get shipped the following day, but in some cases, it could take up to 3 days and even longer during holiday season. So it's very important to have a clear idea about this, because you are able to manage your customers' expectations early on, right? Because everything is linked on your customers' expectations. Very, very, very important. Number 2, manufacturing. So when we talk about manufacturing, there are a couple of questions you need to ask around manufacturing. For example, is the dropshipping supplier also the manufacturer of the products? You need to understand, it is very common for your products to pass through several traders before they reach your potential supplier. Okay, so this is really this happens a lot. So if you find somebody on AliExpress, on Alibaba, or Doba, or Spockets, or Modelist, or whatnot, they may not be the original manufacturer. They may be just a middleman. Okay, so it's really important to have a clear idea of your supplier's position in the value chain, in the logistical chain, so you have a clear idea if you are paying like top dollar or you're paying like low dollar. Okay, it's very important. And so you want to ask yourself, are you getting the best possible price with several traders in between you and the manufacturer? Also, how much stock does the supplier have on hand should your product sell very well? Okay, more specifically, can they keep up with your demand? Especially around the holiday season. I mean, you don't want, like, can you imagine, like, during the most important sales time of the year, your dropshipping supplier having to stock out? That's just a lot of money. That's a lot of revenue. Okay, lost revenue. I mean, this has consequences. So ask questions beforehand. You also want to ask about the product specifics. Be it the product's ingredients, the specifications, or variations. You must know your products very well should any customer ask you a question about them. Okay, it's always great to always buy the products yourself before you dropship it. But even before you do this, make sure to ask any questions which you may have about the product specifications. It's very important that you become familiar with the products. Now, if you are dropshipping several products, let's say tens and tens of products, then it may not be feasible or even humanly possible for you to know all the products. But at least what you want to do is you want to maintain a database. You can save this on your computer or on a USB key drive, or you can just maybe bookmark the web pages. So what you want to do is you want to have records of every product. You want to have a special description about the product, so you have or general specifications, so you know exactly what the product is all about. Number 3, I want to talk to you about the packaging. So you want to ask the dropshipping supplier what kind of packaging is used. So this is important, okay? So if you're going down an eco-friendly route, you don't want plastic packaging, as it will contradict your business image, right? Your branding, your reputation. Also important, if you don't want their logo plastered all over the packaging, ask them. You want to ask those questions beforehand, okay? It's really important to ask those questions up front. By the way, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We're having a conversation about 10 important questions to ask dropshipping suppliers. And so 3 is packaging. Number 4, we have dropshipping. So you want to ask the dropshipping supplier if they facilitate dropshipping. Now you might be thinking this is not an important question, but it really is, because not all suppliers accept dropshipping. You'll be really surprised. Be really, really surprised. So it's really important to ask beforehand, because the last thing you want is for your customer to get your supplier's invoice for half the price or 25% off the price that they actually paid, along with promotional flyers attached. So you don't want that. So make sure that you have the dropshipping supplier agree to your terms and conditions, and that they understand that you are dropshipping, and that they should never share their own information with your customer, because the customer is yours. Okay, you did the marketing, you did the promotion, you did everything to get that customer. Number 5, we have to talk about branding. So you got to ask the dropshipping supplier if they offer branding. So some suppliers may be able to put your logo on both the products and the packaging, but of course for a charge, right? So I mean, this has to be in sync with your budget. So this is really important. And if you want to go down the fully branded route, then this is certainly one question to ask. So this is really important. So it's possible for you to get branding. I mean, we're not talking about partial branding. We're talking about full branding, so that your customer really thinks that the product is totally from you. Okay, but again, it depends on the sort of business model you want to embrace, and what your marketing goals are, and what kind of customers you currently have, and the competitors you're dealing with. Now let's talk about pricing. So pricing is an important element also. And the thing is, when we talk about pricing, you got to look at several things. First of all, ask them if the prices are fixed. Do they have fixed price, or they have a variable pricing? Okay. And it's really important because with the listed price, there was always wiggle room. So you want to ask if they can reduce the pricing. Okay. And it's important also because if you are going to use this dropshipping supplier for the long haul, you want to make sure they are on board when it comes to providing you with affordable prices. Because if you don't have affordable prices, you're never going to be able to attract the right types of customers who will stay. I mean, customers might come for a while, but if they realize they can get better prices elsewhere, you bet they're actually going to leave your store in droves, right? Which is something you don't want anyway. So one thing I want to say also is that don't go to the supplier empty-handed. Don't go empty-handed. You want to show your dropshipping supplier the prices of their competitors, and they will normally come back to you with the more preferable price. Okay, it's very important to always back up your claims, to always substantiate substantiate all elements you are raising during a negotiation round. Okay, you can also do this later. You can actually do this later on when you are ordering a ton of products from the same supplier. You can then try and get a discount. Okay, and you can also ask the question about inventory sellout. So what if you sell out your inventory? So it's important because you want to make sure that the supplier always has enough inventory on hand, because you don't want to have a stock out during a very busy moment, like during holiday seasons, for example. This is definitely not good. You don't want that. So it's important to see what we try to do here. We're trying to plan things ahead. We're trying to prevent things from happening, like bad scenarios from happening. So your store is always stocked out. You always have enough inventory on hand. And I mean, you don't have to have the inventory yourself, because in the dropshipping model, you don't store anything, but your dropshipping supplier must have enough inventory on hand so that they can ship properly and quickly to your customers upon orders. I want to talk to you about MOQ. So this is another question you want to ask your dropshipping supplier. So is there a minimum order requirements? Okay, this is important. So, and this is something you can negotiate. This is on a case-by-case basis. Some dropshipping suppliers will ask you for MOQs, others will not. Usually, if you go through a dropshipping platform like Doba, like Modalist, like Spockets, like Silhu is a dropshipping directory. You don't have to deal with the MOQ because the platform is taking care of that for you. But if you were to deal with the dropshipping supplier on a case-by-case basis, they might ask you for an MOQ. So you can ask them if there is an MOQ, and if there is, how many items are they talking about? Okay, because you have to actually factor that into your cost and see if you can actually absorb that cost. What about the returns? So you want to ask them what happens with returns or refunds, okay? Because you listen, if you are a dropshipper, you're going to find instances. You're going to have instances where their customer is not happy with the products. This will happen. Don't worry about it. It's part of business. So, but the question is, if your customer is not happy with the products, then you have to know how your supplier handles this problem. In most cases, they will simply ask for a photo of the product defect. However, make sure this is the case with your dropshipping supplier as well. So if the order is taking too long to get to your customer, how will your supplier handle this? You will find most suppliers will prefer open dialogue on this matter, as disputes harm their standing with the sales platform, right? So this is one conversation you'll need to have at some point, and no better time than before you start making sales. And it's important because some suppliers may have shitty return policies. Okay, it may also be worth looking into their policies. You want to look for clues of this kind of thing in the review section. So this is really important. Okay, and one thing I want to say also when it comes to the returns, and you have to think about the refunds also. So when a customer is pissed off and returns the product, who will actually absorb the shipping cost? This is a question you need to ask your shipping, your drop shipping supplier. Who will actually eat the shipping cost, and how will the refund actually? How will the refund work? I mean, how will the whole thing work out? Because see, when the customer says he or she is not happy with the product, you as a drop shipper, you have to actually reimburse them. You have to refund them. No questions asked. But now you have to go back to your dropshipping supplier and get refunded too. So you have to think about how these things will work. And again, it's all about making sure that you discuss this beforehand. Let me talk about number 9. You have the visuals. So visuals are really important. And visuals mean what? Means that you have to ask your dropshipping supplier if they can provide high quality photos. Because see, the whole thing is suppliers can normally provide some very good quality pictures of the products for you, because you need to showcase this in your dropshipping store. Again, it doesn't matter whether you're selling on an e-commerce platform or through an e-commerce marketplace, okay? And if the suppliers don't have high quality photos on hand, then it's normal for them to get back to you later on this one. Either way, it doesn't hurt to ask, okay? It can be an easy mistake to use pictures that the supplier does not actually own, landing you in with IP problems, intellectual property. You don't want that. Copyright infringement. You don't want that, okay? And so that's number 9. And number 10, the shipments themselves. And when we talk about the shipments themselves, we're talking about who pays customs fees. And this is a problem that you need to discuss with your dropshipping supplier to make sure that everything is clear. You are on the same page, because you will encounter this problem at some point or another. Your customer will get in touch saying they have had to pay a release for the customs fee. Normally, your customer will be on the hook for this. However, it could really upset a few of them. Some people are really, like, some customers are so happy with free shipment that they will never order from your store again. If they realize that they have to actually pay on top of the price, they have to pay additional, customs fees. Okay, and now some suppliers will handle this incredibly well and refund the customs fees to you, should you have this arrangement in place prior. Okay, so it's really important to really think about that. And also you have to think about what happens if the order never arrives. Okay, I mean, again, this will happen from time to time. So don't allow your supplier to kick the can down the road and keep asking you to wait another week. So you want to have a discussion firsthand and find out after how many days before they would offer a reshipment or refund. This is really important because this will have a direct impact on your relationship. I mean, not a relationship, but on your perception by your end customer. Okay, how your customer sees your store. Very important. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about 10 questions to ask your dropshipping suppliers, okay? And I spoke about delivery times, manufacturing, packaging, dropshipping, branding, pricing, MOQ, returns, visuals, and shipments. Thank you. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.